So I'm Pat Whalen. I work here at Trek. I'm the director of the Niagara Global Tourism Institute, which runs Trek. I work with Roscoe, Kurt, Brian, and Hannah's at the desk. We all work here at Trek, and we work for the Niagara Global Tourism Institute. We're a unit of Niagara University. Obviously, we're not on campus. We're in the city of Niagara Falls. And we have 4 pillars. We do 4 things. One of them is research. Kurt has a PhD in tourism research, so we do tourism-related research. We have a workforce, several workforce programs, and Roscoe is our expert in workforce. We have a technology pillar, so we operate a free Wi-Fi system in downtown Niagara Falls for tourists called Niagara Free Wi-Fi. And when things break here tonight, we'll ask Brian, because he's our technology guy. And the last one is entrepreneurship. And what we do with entrepreneurship is help people start businesses. So if any of you know someone that has an idea for a business, we'd love to see them in Trek. It's $100 a month. You can sit wherever you like, unless the room is locked, because the locked rooms are offices. People pay a little bit more for a locked office, but they operate their businesses out of here. So if somebody has an idea for a business, we'd love to see them in here. It's $100 a month. If they can't afford $100 a month, we'll give them 3 months free. If after 3 months they need more time, we have guides that will get to know them and work with them, and we'll know if they really need more time or not. If they don't really need more time and they're just goofing around in here, they can stay, but they have to pay $100 a month. If they need more time for real, then we'll give them more time. If they're starting their business and they're making money, they can stay, but they have to pay $100 a month. So please spread the word. If you know somebody that wants to start a business, has an idea, we want to get that idea out of their head on a piece of paper so they can launch a business. And that's our primary purpose in this building. We run these other 3 pillars out of here as well, but the main function of the building is to have people, a place for people that can come and get that idea out of their head and start the business. A little bit about the buildings. These buildings, we've been in here for about a year and a half, but about a year and a half of that has been COVID time periods. But there's 6 former vacant properties, 2 on this side that were vacant for 10 years, 3 on that side were vacant for 25 years. And this was always a vacant lot where we're standing or sitting. And this was a key to us because we wanted these kinds of events in this space. So obviously what we did was we built a structure, and if you'll notice, and you will notice if you go to the restrooms, because they're down here, that was one of my things on my notes to tell you where the restrooms are, right down this hall. You'll see that we cut holes in the sides of all these buildings so that we could connect all 6 and make one big space. And again, we want to have events like this here. We do this every month. They're called Guide Talks. We do it on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. Next month, we'll have speakers from Bank on Buffalo, because one of the main questions we get from early stage businesses are, how do I get a bank loan to start my business or grow my business? And it's the biggest frustration people have when they're starting businesses, especially bootstrapping businesses that start the business up with their own resources, not with investors. So we're going to have people from the Bank on Buffalo telling you, if you come, about what kinds of things they look for when they talk to an entrepreneur about a business loan. What kind of things you got to do to think ahead before you start the business so that you're ready and financially fit so you can get a loan when you start the business. So that's going to be, I think, October 20th, 3rd Wednesday of the month. Tonight we're in partnership with the College of Business Administration, and the Dean is here, Mark right in front of me, and the Associate Dean, Ann Rensel's here. But the guy that really put this together is Phil Cantonese down here with the suit on. The guy wears a suit every day. I love him. Who wears a suit every day? Blake, come on, you do not. David Carroll does. All right. Unfortunately. But Phil wears a suit every day because he wants to. And quick story about Phil. Probably most of you don't know, but Niagara University had a flood in the summer on July 20th, and Phil's building was flooded. He was a refugee, and he came here every day and worked until just about a week ago when his building was repaired. Force of nature. And it was a real pleasure to have Phil here every day. He really improved the dress code. And he put this panel together. So thanks, Phil, for all your work on this. He's a taskmaster. And with that, I'm really thrilled about the panel that Phil put together. And it's going to be moderated by Dale Martin. And I'm going to introduce Dale right now and ask him to take it from here. Thanks, Dale.
Hello, hello. It is working. So, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Great, great. Well, you stuck with me at least for another hour and a half, and I promise to be entertaining and hopefully engaging. But the engagement part starts with you. So this is not the opportunity to go to sleep or any of the boring stuff. I will be calling on you, asking you to really participate, because that's what this is. For the college students that are here, this is your classroom outside of the classroom. For the business owners and entrepreneurs that are here, this is an extension of what you already know and what you are aspiring to do. And so I think it's important that we participate. We learn from each other. We share information, ideas, and definitely pick their brains. You have some of the best at the table in their endeavors. So this is a one and only opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with these business leaders. So certainly take advantage of it. That being said, one of the first things I want to start with is that since 1865, there was an institution, academic institution, that they too turned out some of the best and brightest in Western New York. So anybody have an idea who that academic institution is? Okay, I hear a whisper, but I don't. Okay, Niagara University. Okay, Pat, you have some steak knives in the back. Wait for you. But yes, Niagara University. And if you follow the institution and their history, they're known for many things. Their business program is second to none. Their hospitality program is second to none. And their board of directors, which I'm actually a part of, is a who's who of business leaders, not just in West New York, but around the country. And so I'm honored to be a part of it. I'll tell you a little bit about myself for those who don't know who I am. I am Dale Martin. I am the owner of Western New York at Work. We are a business services company. And I was once a student sitting in your seat. Maybe not your seat, but in the seat across. And I want the students to take away something that you too will be seeing here, introducing business leaders and fellow colleagues yourself, because that's who you are today. You were destined to be here. It's not by accident. And so whether you were invited by your professor or you found out the program on your own, you were destined to be here. And so please take note that this is just a start of where you're about to strive for. So I really want to share that. Before I introduce the panel, I want to get a sense of who is in the audience. So if you are a student, raise your hand. Okay. Tell your professor you need a A. If you are a business owner, raise your hand. Okay. All right. So we have a mixture of business owners and students, which is great because that's going to really complement the conversation for today. So without further ado, what I would like to do is I'm going to pass the mic over to the panelists and allow them the opportunity to introduce themselves, and we will move forward.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dave Carroll. I'm the Regional Director of Sales for the Merani Hotel Group here in Niagara Falls.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cerza. I'm the founder of the National Chicken Wing Festival. We just had our little picnic about a week and a half ago at Highmark Stadium. Entrepreneur into real estate investing, and happy to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Allanna, and I'm here representing Tim Hortons. I'm actually a local franchisee who has 33 locations in the Western New York area. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Matt Lasher. I am Josh Allen's personal concierge, also known as the marketing director at Herr.
I like that introduction. Okay, and for those of you that are sitting in the front, I noticed that you have your legs extended. Please do not trip me. Okay, 'cause I will be walking around. But that being said, today's conversation is really about marketing, advertising, and sales. And if you talk to various individuals, it means different things to different individuals. And so you're going to get a very comprehensive perspective from business leaders and what, not just the definition, but the practical aspect of how it applies to their various business. So before I talk to the panelists, I'm going to reach out, because I told you this was going to be group participation. So I'm going to reach out to you, and I'm going to ask the question. Give me your definition of marketing, sales, or advertising, and you can choose. And I'm not going to talk to faculty because they've been reading too many books. So,
I'll say sales. Sales is about helping people based on trust and relationships.
We're going to spread the wealth around because we're going to move. Okay, so we have sales. So someone speak to either marketing or advertising, and for whatever reason, you have the mic.
Marketing or advertising, I would have to say, is to deliver a message that is easily to be perceived by a customer to provide them with what they're looking for.
And in today's society where we feel that women rule the world, we're going to hear from a young lady.
Marketing, just getting the word out there about your business, spreading the word.
Thank you. Thank you all. And those are some good remarks. And just so you know, just kind of follow the, kind of give you an idea of the flow. We will be getting questions not only from the audience, but I will be receiving text messages from outside. And so some of those questions, I will be proposing to the panelists. So let's start with an easy one. In everyone's individual business, we have all, pre-COVID, post-COVID, and we've all had to pivot in one fashion or another. So I'm going to start with David. And David, your industry has been hit dramatically. And so if you don't mind, can you speak to the importance of sales, advertising, and marketing, but specific to your industry and how COVID has impacted your business?
Absolutely. So with COVID, everyone's aware that it's been an absolute nightmare for hospitality, restaurants, bars, things like that. People are afraid to travel. Where we've kind of begun to rebound, and a lot of it is branding and marketing through the brand. So I work for a franchisee, but we own branded hotels, the Hilton. We own a DoubleTree. We own a Best Western and a Holiday Inn, and then 2 properties on the Canadian side. And so their marketing and their advertising helps us as a franchisee sell rooms. So, but from a sales standpoint, that's my job, is to go out and find people that are willing to risk coming out now. I mean, now things are beginning to change to a certain degree, so it's not as severe. For me, during COVID, it has been, I worked the entire time. I've not been off at all. So I had to lay off all of my salespeople. So at one point, it was me as the sales manager for 5 hotels. The 2 Canadian ones were closed, but on the US side, we kept all of ours open. So for me, keeping our hotels open during COVID was really based on relationships I had with people in this market or other markets or around New York State that were coming into Niagara Falls, that's, for me, that helped keep our company alive for COVID, was just the relationships that we've built over the years with individuals, companies, organizations. Our biggest thing for us at the DoubleTree during the beginning of COVID was we really contemplated closing it down, and we had gotten to the point where we were seriously considering it, and I received a call the end of March, so everything's shutting down. I mean, everybody remembers, it almost felt like the world was ending, and I got a call from the airbase, and airbase comes in and like, hey, Dave, we need 100 rooms a night for the next 4 months. So, yeah. So, as I'm contemplating, like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna lose my job, I'm gonna lose my house, I'm gonna lose my car, I'm gonna lose everything because I'm gonna be out of work soon. Out of nowhere, the airbase comes, and it's based on my relationship with everybody at the airbase. And the military folks out of New York State, out of Albany, they called and said, we need 100 rooms. What can you do for us? And we basically turned the whole hotel over to the National Guard for New York State, and they lived at my hotel for 4 solid months. So it got us from March through July, and then COVID started waning, and then we began to get more customers. So to me, sales, that's I've always been in sales. For me, the biggest thing is it's relationships. And despite all social media and people and their phones and in their computers, you still need to have a relationship with someone to sell them something. You can sell a bottle of water to somebody over the phone or over an app, but ultimately you're gonna have to work face to face with that person. And if you don't have that relationship, you're not gonna be very successful at anything you do if you don't know how to sell it, so.
No, in fact, let's pass it down to, so Andrew, this question is for each of them.
Can you repeat the question?
Pre-COVID, post-COVID, how has it impacted your business and type of work that you do?
It was easy for me. Didn't impact me at all. So, I run the National Chicken Wing Festival. We had 18 years running, and then last year we couldn't do it because we weren't allowed to legally, nor will we have put people in danger. So, I'm always Labor Day weekend, and as you know, we came out of the spring COVID-wise. Things started getting a little bit better, but the capacity for outdoor events was still a maximum of 500 people, and we draw usually up to 50,000 people. So things weren't looking too good. And then I think it was late April, early May, things opened up to full capacity. Okay, so now I've got, 4 to 5 months, 4 months really to plan the festival. Well, we had a few little challenges. Because of Canada not letting Americans in, the Toronto Blue Jays had a long-term deal to play where the Buffalo Bison's minor league stadium is, downtown Buffalo, Salmon Field, the home of the National Chicken Wing Festival. Imagine that, wanting to play baseball. So they had a homestand Labor Day weekend. So now we didn't know when the border would open up. So how far along do I go planning the festival at the baseball stadium, not knowing if it's going to be available? Well, eventually, 3 months out, I had to look at secondary locations. And it would have been very easy to pull the plug. But that would have been 2 years in a row, and canceling an event like the Wing Fest, where we are, that's our food. Buffalo wings, they're called Buffalo wings across the country. It's a really bad message to our community to cancel it. And you don't want to go 2 years without a festival, because then people, they forget about it. You lose that momentum. So I met with the Buffalo Bills. I said, go big or go home, right? And the Bills were fantastic. We worked out an arrangement at the stadium. Delaware North, who runs all the food service, made a deal with them, and we moved to the stadium. So I'm touring the stadium like, what in the world am I doing here? This is crazy, because the cost was probably 4 times of what it was at the ballpark. But I felt, I was a fan of the Field of Dreams movie with Kevin Costner. And that's how I built the Wing Fest at the stadium the first year. I watched the movie again, and I'm like, son of a pup, that's it. You just got to make this thing big. You come down to the Wing Fest, and you'll be on the field where Josh Allen plays, right? You're going to be on the field of the Buffalo Bills. You don't get that. So I got that going for me. So I'm going to sell this thing big. Well, there's a few more challenges. You need chicken wings, right? I'm sure you heard about the chicken wing shortage, right? and the price of chicken wings were twice as much. Well, now I had worked out a deal with Tyson to have chicken wings shipped 100 cases at a time, a week, to Buffalo and Rochester. Got it rolling, right? We're gonna get our 40,000 pounds or 20 tons by the Wingfest weekend. Well, a month in, there's a COVID outbreak in the plant, there's a salmonella problem with the chicken, and now they have no labor. Somehow, we found a truck with 20 tons, and they're pre-cooked roasted wings, flash frozen, perfect for the Wingfest, so we found them, but a little more money than we wanted to spend. And I don't know if you heard about the restaurant problems out there, but they don't have any labor either. So now we got to recruit restaurants, not only to man their restaurants that weekend, but to travel across the country to come to the Wingfest. We had built our brand so well and become such a cult event for the chicken wing industry, we got the restaurants to come out. But then the tent companies didn't have labor. Nobody had labor. So we had friends and family volunteers all come out. So we had all these different challenges. We had to raise the price from $5 to $20. There's no bus routes going out to Orchard Park. We had no idea what would happen. And then about 3 weeks out, the Delta variant starts kicking it again. So now we don't know what's going on. So what did I decide to do? I doubled my advertising budget and sold the heck out of it. And sold the heck out of chicken wings and being on the field. So it was a whole different type of marketing for me and a whole different play. And we had to figure out all the new logistics. We had a restaurant row in one area. You can go on the field and listen to music, watch contests, and check out all the sponsors' activities on the field. It kind of flowed pretty well. Our attendance was less than half, but that's okay. It was a good event. It flowed. We kept the momentum going. You know, we only had about 20,000 people, and there's over 900,000 in Western New York. So the other 900,000, all they know is what they saw on TV and social media, and it was pretty darn good. So to me, it was a success. Would have been easy just to pack it up. Now my challenge is, where do I have it next year? Football field or baseball field? But the whole Western New York community came together. The sponsorship, the local sponsorship was fantastic, because the national guys were afraid to sponsor because they didn't want to be involved with any kind of event that might be a bad message and be a spreader type event. So local companies stepped up, the restaurants, volunteers, the Feed More Western New York, we give them proceeds, and Alzheimer's Association, their volunteers came out. We were worried about them coming out, so the whole community stepped up, the media, and it was a real Western New York success story. So that was my pivot, just a little pivot this year, Dale.
Thank you, Drew, for continuing with the Wing Fest for Western New York. It's a big feat. For me, with my Tim Hortons business, I say this in a very humbling way. We were basically meant for the pandemic, in a weird kind of way. Our business, as anybody that's from the area would know, our drive-through is our primary business. And we did not miss a single day during the pandemic with our drive-thrus open and available. Not that we didn't have a lot of challenges. With the biggest challenge originally was our team, and just how do we keep them safe. We could keep the customers safe. They stayed in their car. You know, they drove up with their gloves on and their own cup that they wanted to dump their coffee in, whatever they needed to do to be safe, but our concern was, how do we keep our team safe? So just a lot of implementation of all the things that we know that really work. And within 2 weeks, we had a team that was very confident in coming to work. We didn't lay a single person off. We kept our team of over 800 people throughout the entire pandemic, which has really been a plus for us right now in challenging staffing times, that we, once again, very grateful that we're not in the shape that some other businesses are, looking for building a team again. But really, other than that, just grateful, worked well, kept everybody safe, and the demand for the business and the product is more than what it's ever been. So we're just grateful. Thank you.
So I told her I would hide this Starbucks. I got this Starbucks cup over there, and I have a Tim Hortons cup in my car. So the car business, I kind of like feel like I'm going through PTSD or something, like listening to all these stories. Like it's been an interesting year and a half. Nobody's, well, I'll pause for a sec. So I'll tell you what happened during the early part of COVID. Automotive experienced a lot of legislation and rule changes that were happening quickly. So state and federal governments were determining what's essential or non-essential. Half of our business was determined to be essential. So our fixed ops team, our technicians and service side of the business was considered to be essential, meaning they could stay at work. The sales teams were deemed non-essential, basically. So for 6 weeks, we had our whole sales team furloughed, and we weren't sure what was going to happen, right? And kind of, if I'm thinking back to that, that was a pretty scary moment. But rather quickly, with the PPP loans and some of the things that came together to allow teams to come back quicker than normal. We have 380 salespeople, to put it in context, about 150 sales managers. We have 2,600 employees total at Western now, 30 locations. So it's a pretty big operation, and you're moving all these people around, trying to get them in sync and communicating to them. And those are challenges to go through. From the marketing side, we did a lot of things. Like marketing got real busy all of a sudden. We're communicating safety protocols, right? Social distancing, mask enforcements. We got mask stickers on the floors. Signage we're adjusting. We launched a curbside delivery program, which nobody really cared about, but we launched it, right? So we're shooting TV ads. We weren't sure if we could have our TV crews come gather. So that March, April time period was a real interesting one. And then we got into this unexpected consumer demand. So kind of like what you're saying, your business, hotels, restaurants, travel, negatively impacted. Car sales have been positively impacted. So there's been a dramatic increase in consumer demand in auto. So our business really, I sort of sound embarrassed to say this out loud, but has benefited in an awkward way because of COVID. One thing that nobody's really talked about that I'll throw out there, that for me as a marketer, thinking about people and human beings, right, all of us, it hasn't been just about COVID for us. I think some of the systemic oppression and racial talks that have happened across the community, across the country, have been pretty impactful on my own life in terms of education and stuff. And sometimes I know the pandemic's not over, but when you got something that's 400 years in the making, that's not over either. So addressing sort of systemic biases and challenging our own assumptions of like what makes us comfortable and not comfortable has been an interesting process for us. So I'll just put that out there in terms of, everybody talks about the pandemic. It's easy to talk about that. It's harder to talk about, I think, racial inequality issues and systemic oppression things. But having a little maybe extra time on our hands or exposing ourselves to different elements through social media and other things, I think it affords an interesting opportunity for all of us to learn. So if we want to get uncomfortable today, we can, I guess. But that I would say that we would encourage, whatever questions you guys have, however we can, provide, feedback, we're in. But drifting back to the car business here for a second. Yeah, I mean, we got Team West Herr, we got Josh Allen, Deion Dawkins, Harrison Phillips, and these guys. So if you guys want to talk about like social media influencer marketing or whatever you guys might be interested in, we can talk about that. If you want to talk about advertising channels, we can talk about that. My thing we talked about marketing versus advertising. What's the difference? I guess I would say marketing is like the storytelling side of the business, and advertising is a technical side of like which channels should I deploy the message on. That's kind of how I would define those two. And sales is really an executional element. I liked your sort of commentary about helping people, or forget exactly how you said that, but that was perfect for West Herr, so we need to record that.
Actually, Matt, I'm going to ask you to keep the mic, and because you touched on something. Actually, each one of the panelists touched on something. Drew talked about the branding. Dave touched on really on the sales component of it. Moving forward, moving into 2022, which channel do you feel is going to be, or several channels, strategies, do you feel are going to be your focus in terms of making the dealership more profitable and reaching out and connecting with your customer base? And that's something for each one of the panelists. So what channels are you going to focus on moving into 2022 to reach into your customer base?
So look, the car business, we're spoiled. We spend in every channel, right? So I can give you a commentary on any area, newspaper, direct mail, radio, TV, social, whatever, all of the things. If I were sitting in, maybe a small business chair today, and I had $500 to spend on a monthly advertising campaign, I would spend it on Facebook. I don't really think it's much of a debate. I think social media is a place you gotta understand. Maybe it's TikTok for your business. I don't know, like whatever. But I think there's a lot of really scrappy ways that you can get the message out that don't necessarily have to cost a lot of money. So that's where I would encourage us all. It's probably not a secret, I'm not saying anything we don't know already, but that would be my opinion.
For me, I'm in a little different situation. We have a national budget for marketing, advertising, and kind of like Matt, we use all channels and have in the past relied heavily on all channels for marketing and advertising. But our new directive, and this came out of the pandemic as well, we're primarily moving to social media for our marketing and advertising programs. A lot to do with our app, our digital app, and requiring our customers to have that app going forward. So basically what we're looking at is a complete elimination of some of our traditional marketing venues, and that's the way they perceive, our analytics are telling us that's how we should move going forward.
I'm not going to rock the boat. So we started the Wingfest 20 years ago, and it was very traditional media, radio, TV, and promotion. I'm big on PR. So my feeling is, like, what I do is I've got this persona called the Wing King. I do some crazy stuff. I wear a cape and a hat. I do cooking shows and things, and it's all free. I mean, it's free. I mean, we got a great piece on Good Morning America the other day. I mean, it was a minute and a half to 2 minutes on the Wingfest as a follow-up, surviving the pandemic. That's free. And the value of that is 7 times the value of advertising, if you paid for it. But what I saw this year was, everything went too fast. We only had 4 months to plan, so it was really condensed. And I decided I doubled my budget, but I put 25% toward digital. And then what I did was there was a few young people, well, one was my daughter. I said, find me the influencers, the people that are influencers for football and food. Well, football, unfortunately, is the Josh Allens of the world, and you can't get them. You have to pay for that. But food, it was pretty unique. Well, the Buffalo Fanatics, that was one. Buffalo Fanatics is 81,000 Facebook followers, Twitter followers. Called the guy direct, hey, I need some help. I'll make you a judge at the Wingfest. Really? Well, I'll promote the hell out of you. Didn't cost me anything, And they get to go around and eat free wings. Then all of a sudden, some guy calls me, he emails me, he's got 765,000 TikTok followers. I've heard of TikTok, I understand it's something. I said, do you want to be a judge? And he says, really? That'd be great. Yeah, I said, can you help me on TikTok? Oh man, I'll rock TikTok for you. Okay. And then this girl, Maddie, I get a lead on her. And she's got her code name, I don't like it. It's Buffalo Food something else. But she's got, 25,000 Instagram followers. So influencers and social media is going to be my play. I'm actually going to take classes on social media this fall or winter. I want to really understand it because I think we all understand it to a certain degree because it can be mean. People are just mean as hell on social media. And you got to understand how to manage it. It's not about blocking them. It's about having Disney. What Disney does, they have Disney moms that basically post and block. And if somebody says something negative, they overcome it. So I am really going heavy on social media influencers for the next year, and probably going forward. I think, there's Tim Hortons and West Herr talking about it. Right there, that tells you something. I think traditional media, it'll always be there, but I think it's really gradually going on the decline. So you still need the balance, I think, but we're really leaning toward the other way.
The brands, like Big Hiltons and IHG, Holiday Inn, things like that, they're everywhere. So, but from a a standpoint for Merani, we're aligned with everybody else. We've hired somebody that does our social media stuff. I used to sell advertising, promotions, and marketing before I got into the hotel business. I used to work for the Bisons. I used to work for the Buffalo Destroyers. So I used to sell in-game promotions and advertising and things like that. So I get how it works, and I agree with Drew 100%. Those old medias are going always to be around, but they're not as important as they used to be. So our focus at Merani is definitely social media, and look, I'm 57, so I'm barely anything about Instagram. I don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me, but I know what it means to kids who aren't, people who aren't my age and are much younger. Like my sales coordinator, she's 24 and she lives for it. So I get it. I'm at far end of the spectrum, but it is vitally important, and you have to change with the times. And like Drew said, you really need to have somebody that can answer. You just can't ignore things anymore. But years ago, before TripAdvisor, which I hate TripAdvisor, but before TripAdvisor, you could just kind of, that person's a crank. Well, now that person has got 1 million people that now you're the crank. So yeah. So we have somebody that does it for us, and she does a great job. So that's where we're leaning, is more and more social media. We don't even do print anymore. I mean, print's slowly dying, especially like magazines and things like that. We don't really do anything in those venues any longer.
Okay.
Social media's it.
Social media is it. Well, there's a consistent story that each one of the panelists has addressed, but it doesn't sound like you're going to be going to class with Drew, though. No. You're not going to enroll in the social media class.
I'll train you. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes. But each one of you touched on something that I think is so important for both our college students and our business owners here in the room, because you talked about allocating revenue or funds towards social media. So for the college student as well as the business owner, how do you gauge how much you're going to spend? Is it based on your gross sales? Is it based on some other measurement of performance, that the company has to offer? So, Matt, for example, when you look at your budget and what you're going to spend in advertising, marketing, and sales. And by the way, before Matt answers the question, for the college students out there, I did a research on my way here. There are 15 million jobs in sales in the U.S. So if you think that you're not good in sales, nothing is bought or sold unless you're in sales.
Nothing gets done until somebody buys something.
Right. Nothing is done, exactly. So whether you watch the stock market or buy soap or whatever the case may be, sales is a very rewarding career choice for the college students, and for the business owner, it's the lifeblood of your business. And marketing, just in marketing, there's 87,000 jobs available in the marketplace right now. So the college students, if you are a senior, junior, senior, or just in transition, look at those opportunities if that's where you are. And so just a point of reference. This conversation that you're having today, there's something here for everyone, whether you're a job seeker, college student, or business owner, mature, startup, or otherwise. So.
Talking about budgets, right?
Yes.
So in our business, I'm not exactly sure where this metric came from. It sort of predates me, but we try to operate around a $200 per car advertising budget. So we sell about 5,000 cars a month, so you could do the math. It's about $1 million a month in total advertising spend. But about 15% of that is a referral program that we have. So we'll pay you $100 if you send somebody to Wester's doors, right? So it's divided out. The rest of that is pretty evenly split between traditional media and social. The story is a little more nuanced by brand, so this may relate to some of the national brand conversations. So Herr is a franchisee of 20 plus OEMs, factories, car companies, Ford, Nissan, Chevy, Toyota, those. So they tell us sort of how we have to spend money at times. So there's a co-op program, and that actually influences our budgets more than our own individual opinion of how much we want to spend or not spend. Right now, social media is a pretty small percentage of the budget, especially on like Facebook. I would say Google gets the lion's share of digital media spend, largely because paid search works, but also because it's the easiest thing to execute against. There's not a friction component related to creating content, creative, that exists in the social media space. So how do you execute on social? We have a person that does it or whatever, you know, like that's harder than just like letting the robots do it on Google's side. So we spend 10x more on Google than we do on Facebook, not because it's a better medium, but because it's easier, and also because it's easier to get co-op reimbursement from the factory. So there's a fascinating like nuance depending on your business. Like you may have co-op advertising, you may not. Do you get? So, you know, but for us, the easiest coffee table stat is $200 a car for us to sort of keep things in line. So, but that was in the details, I guess.
Good answer. Yes.
In my situation, being a franchise business, it's we're given a percentage that we have to pay according to sales per restaurant for advertising. So right now, we're running about 4.5% of our sales to advertising budget, which becomes a huge budget overall for us to work with.
This is going to be, I'm very untraditional. There is no book on it, but what I've always done is I do it based on, I plan 3 weeks out for advertising. I'll put 20% of my budget in the first week and then 30% the second and 50% the last week, because usually the week of an event, that's when you make your decision. And I sprinkle it with ticket giveaways. So I'll always do traditional because, you know, the beauty of traditional for me is, you know, if I do a piece on Channel 2 or advertising, then Scott Levin, he's got X amount of followers, they'll tweet it, or I'll go into a radio station, wear the chicken wing hat, and 97 Rock's morning show, they're tweeting it. Same with YRK, so I'll leverage my PR and social media off the spend that I actually do. But I would say I'm probably 5 to 10%. I'd say 5% off my net to 10%. I raised it to 10% off my net. But you never know what your net's going to be because it changes based on so many different costs. But mine's more based upon how many times I can reach the consumer with ticket giveaway spots, whether it's a 10-second spot, a quickie, or a 30-second, or if it's a 60-second where I got to get a deeper message across. So I do it based on reach and frequency, more so than an actual dollar amount.
We, you know, as franchisees with Hilton and IHG and Best Western, there a lot of our some of our franchise money that we pay them goes to brand advertising. So I don't know how they spend it, but from a Merani standpoint, we look at a calendar for 12 months. We look at 12 months of the year, and a lot of our decisions are made on need based on, you know, is it Mother's Day, or are we doing, you know, are we going to do Father's Day specials? Are we going to do this? So we look at each month and say a couple weeks out, we're like, okay, well, we're going to do a social media blitz for Mother's Day at the Doubletrees restaurant and the Bella Vista restaurant at the Best Western, or if the Bills opener or there's a big sporting event, we'll do a media blitz for Anchor Bar because we own a franchise that's attached to the Holiday Inn. So that's how we look at it. We rarely do any type of media for rooms, overnight rooms. It's usually 9 times out of 10, it's going to be based on the restaurants. Rooms does very well on its own. So, and that's kind of, we leave that with the brands to do that. So, from a sales standpoint, that's where my team comes in for rooms and group events and catering and things like that. But from a social media standpoint, it's basically just restaurant driven. So,
Great. Glad you raised your hand because we're about to kind of switch it up a little bit. We'd like to field some questions from the audience. And since you are the very first one, I'm going to come over to you.
Thank you all. So I have a quick question. Are there any strategies for marketing attribution that you can share with the group here? So how do you determine the spend that you had, $200 per car, let's say, what was most effective, and where did the business actually originate from, and how do you tweak your budgets based on that?
I can't answer that. So I'll give it to you. I'll give it on to you.
So my perspective, I love marketing attribution. It's a super interesting space. Marketing's part art, part science. The reality is nobody knows exactly what's working. Most marketers are not vulnerable enough to say that because they're justifying their position or their job or their impact in their business. With Herr, for example, a lot of the efforts we do drives traffic to Herr.com. Herr.com is not a traditional e-commerce transactional site. It produces leads, produces 7,000 or 8,000 leads a month that go to various stores, but there's a huge distortion in what happens at the store. So the quality of the engagement at the store could vary, right? I could be talking to a new salesperson who doesn't know what they're talking about, and I could leave. I could talk to a really good salesperson that knows what they're talking about, and I could sell it, we could sell the car. So you have to be really careful, I think, with attribution. There's last click attribution. There's multiple different models in GA now of trying to weight different influences and where they are in the cycle. I'll give you guys one boring little technical detail if you care about GA. We are tracking, we have an events tracking script on Herr.com. There's some data scientists in Automotive that have determined if you visit the same VDP, which is called a vehicle detail page, great? You go to a car page, I like this car. If you go back to it within a 48-hour period, that's the highest indicator or highest likelihood of a sale that we can find in macro data, okay? So we have that script tracking Herr.com. So if you go to a site, whatever drives you to Herr.com, you look at a car, if you come back to it within a 48-hour period, we count that as a sale. That correlates pretty closely to what our actual sales volume is, although I understand it's not actually a sale. Some of them are, some of them aren't. It's as close as I can get to sort of this holy grail idea that we can figure it out. But just ask if you're in a business, if you have a business, you ask your customer, how did you hear about me? Maybe they know you personally, but maybe maybe their neighbor had a good experience with you, or maybe they saw a direct mail piece, or maybe they met somebody at the Wing Festival and, hey, I want to go get my nails done at this place because, whatever. So it's an inexact science, so I would just leave it at that, but attribution is a fascinating conversation. Nobody's figured it out. I would venture a guess that we'll never figure it out. Google claims to have figured it out, but it's a propaganda machine to empower Google to spend more money on Google, right? So that, just be careful with the research that you get, right? Zero moment of truth is a very well-known thing on Google of how important we are. Who does that benefit? Spending money in Google, right? To the detriment of traditional sources, which are still useful and effective. So fascinating. I love that question. That's a hard one, but it's a cool space for sure.
I actually have the answer. I heard this years ago. I think it still applies. 50% works, 50% doesn't, and you never know which 50% did. But I know this, out of all the stuff I did PR-wise and advertising this year, my mother called me and said, Drew, I'm so proud of you. I was watching TV at 4 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep, and I see you on that commercial with Bill Matar. Oh my God. Well, Bill Matar became a sponsor, and his sponsorship was buying spots. But we filmed some cute commercials together. But that's the one my mom that really got her. You're with Bill Matar. You know Bill Matar? So that's my claim to fame. I know Bill Matar, guys.
Okay, we're going to take some questions from the audience as well as from our questions that have come in. I'll read it as best I can. Can you talk about how to manage consistency between what you promote as a brand culture and how to execute through operations? So I'll repeat it once again. Can we talk about how to manage consistency between what you promote as a brand culture and how to execute through operations? That sounds like somebody in college here or something. That's when you're supposed to laugh. Anyone want to take a stab at that?
I'll give you a saying I heard one time I always loved. I'm big on sayings. I'm getting old. Never put a Saks Fifth Avenue sign outside of a JCPenney. Because when you walk in, it ain't Saks Fifth Avenue. So I think if you're going to promote something and you're going to say you do this or you can do this, you better make sure. And just with the Wingfest, we promote fun. Fun and food, that's all we do. So we just make sure when people come in, they're going to eat well and they're going to have a lot of fun. So just make sure when they walk through those doors, it's what you promised.
Okay. Okay, good.
So I think authenticity is the word that comes to mind for me. So like, if you think of like Mad Men era advertising, like the 50s or 60s or whatever, like, you know, the powers that be in the conference room would like come up with the campaign and like, you know, push it out to the masses, right? Well, it's not like that anymore. The powers that be have no control. The people have all the control, right? So if you're a fraud, it very quickly becomes evident via your reputation management, your reviews on Google, your reviews on Amazon or whatever, right? Like what people are saying about you on social. So you got to be authentic. Wing fest, fun, and food. Like that sounds authentic to me, right? And so same thing with Western. We talked about this on the Zoom meeting when we were all together, sort of before this event. Marketers don't have the ability to lie, really. Maybe for a very short period of time, but ultimately the truth comes out. So authenticity is the way, understanding your story, what your brand is all about, what your company is all about. But that speaks to executive leadership. The way that question's framed, how do you hold the team accountable? Marketers don't do that. The leaders of the company do that, right? So everybody needs to be in line. Marketing needs to have a seat at the table, but the CEO's job is to keep everybody together and moving, or the COO's job, structurally. So
I'm going to ask you to hold the mic because there's another question that came in, and it states, brands are critical. Outside of social media, how do you protect your brand? And that's something for the entire panelists, rather.
marketers are stewards of the brand, no doubt. Wester has been in business for 70 plus years, and the leadership set the tone. So when we screw up, we try to say we're sorry, and we try to make it up to you. We use a very cheap little device for a Net Promoter Score survey. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend the Wester Auto Group to a friend? I have that hanging over the coffee pot at the executive office that we look at every day. So if you give us a survey score of 6 or less, we will see it, we will read it, we will respond to you 100% of the time, because we care about those negative experiences. We also care about the good experiences. We talk about that too. So I think that's, you got to listen, right? You got to listen to your audience in general and pay attention.
Great question, great answer.
I think in my line, for the brand, basically that's our business. And overall, it's not only myself and my 33 locations, it's the 700 locations in the US that has to all work together as one to maintain the brand and the brand standards and everything that we stand for. So it's a huge group effort.
I think you have to be the brand. I like to have fun. I'm not stupid fun. When I talk to people, I'm engaging, I smile, I like people. I like learning about people. I mean, I think you need to portray the brand, whatever you do. You have to act the brand, you have to act professional, classy, but you gotta be like, the Wingfest is fun and food, and that's my life. You know, again, not stupid fun, but fun. I mean, I just want to be around people and engage people, and that's what our brand is.
For hospitality, we are judged every day by our guests, and guests get surveys, and it's a score from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. And if, at least from a Hilton standpoint, if you get anything less than an 8, you failed. So getting the staff to buy, look, I deal with customers every day, but I don't deal with the 9 times out of 10, the end user. It's the front desk, and it's the kids in housekeeping and the people in the restaurant. So if they're having a bad day, it translates, it could become a nightmare. So we're required to respond to every guest assistance or every guest complaint, whether it's on TripAdvisor or whatever other platform is out there. So and you have to get everybody to buy into it. And it kind of goes back to that other question about operations. If operations fails, you're going to fail. So from a hotel standpoint, we have to make sure everybody on the staff is on the same page. We get SALT reviews. I deal with customer complaints a lot. And then you have to be genuine, and you have to be nice, and you have to understand and empathetic and all those great words. But ultimately, the brand, the Hilton brand or the Holiday Inn brand, make sure you do it, because ultimately what happens is if your numbers are that bad, you could lose your flag, you'll get fined. I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing with Tim Hortons. So there's a lot of incentives to do a good job.
Yes. That being said, for the accounting students and professors that are in the room, I guess we're talking about that intangible, tangible asset that you have to protect that. You have to protect that at all costs. We still have some time left in this evening's schedule, so what I would like to do is start to field some questions from this side as we move forward. So for anyone on this end of the room, if you have a question or two, just raise your hand and I'll pass the mic over to you. Okay, Mr. Blake?
Thank you guys for being here. This is awesome. So I think one of the things that we're seeing with this pandemic is we're seeing a blend in sales and marketing. We're seeing a blend now in customer experience and employee experience. So now with workforce development, people having some trouble with attracting and retaining top talent that might end up being a customer service issue. You mentioned NPS scores and digital data and analytics. How are you guys managing that transition and making sure the employee experience is really the strongest? Because like you guys said, without a good employee experience, you don't have a good customer experience. So how are you guys managing that with the transition? You know, we're seeing wages, we're seeing digital transitions, working from home. It's a big shift. I bought my car from Herr. They actually shipped it. They shipped it to the transit location on Rochester. The only reason why I bought a car from Herr is because the one salesperson, after calling everyone, took the car from Rochester without any down payment, without anything. I bought it instantly because of the experience. So that's what I'm seeing as a difference in digital divide is the people that understand the experience and how you transition with it here. So how are you handling it?
From a hotel standpoint, we can't work from home. So everybody's on property, and what we've done for the staffing, at least from all the line level, and it's been awful for a lot of them, just because of there's just been a tremendous increase in guests over the last year and a half, and people are traveling, and they're crazy about traveling, and they want to get out of the house. So we've been, we've increased rate, we've increased wages across the board for everybody. We try to make their job as pleasant as we can possibly make it, but unfortunately, at least in the hospitality in it, and it's probably a lot like with Tim Hortons, it's a hard job. I mean, and there's times it's an awful job. Housekeeping is not an easy job, and I've done it because we don't have enough staff. But that's what we've tried to do is just say, like, look, we get it. We've all been there. We're all here together, trying to make it a team effort. But again, I think the biggest thing for us was just increasing wages, making sure everybody's safe. If everybody needs to you need to take a takeoff. It has changed the dynamic, at least on the workforce from our end. So respecting what they do, and I'm sure everybody goes through in every job I've ever been in. It's always like sales versus the front desk, and it's front desk versus the kitchen, and the kitchen versus the front of the house. It's always going to be there, but with COVID and everything, we've realized that, you know what, we kind of all need each other. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but for us, from a hospitality standpoint, at least for the Merani, everybody across the board got a raise. So that's why we've been able to retain a lot of people.
No employees.
We're always winning every bunch.
Nobody will disagree with them, you got to make it.
That's a hard one to live up to. For my team of 800, I have, let me see, to get back on track, basically have put in a lot of incentives and bonuses for employees. A lot of, we didn't call it COVID pay or anything, it was an appreciation pay. We ran through the first year of COVID, which worked really well. And people really appreciated the fact that we did that. The other thing was just flexibility, a ton of flexibility for our people with regards to moms that had kids at home and changing up their shifts to whatever, to accommodate whatever their needs were. Managers, my top end people, and the other thing, we didn't, kind of like the hospitality industry, everybody was at work. You can't do the job from home. So it's just protecting them, keeping them safe, keeping them motivated, a lot of extras, and a lot of counseling, I would say, a lot of motivating, a lot of reassuring everybody every day just to keep it going.
I guess what I would highlight is we're always trying to recruit. We need to hire 40 technicians right now. So one of the biggest challenges for us is people getting into that field. So one thing that we've done is we've been heavily involved with Erie Community College and their technical training program. So we basically subvent that program. We're kind of like the military. We'll pay for you to go to school, and we're sort of producing technicians. We get half the graduating field of technicians out of that class. So that's one area that we're trying to address, the pipeline of technicians. We have an aging workforce that we need to address. It's a hard job, hard on your shoulders, hard on your hands, hard on your knees. Cars are frozen in the winter, right? You mentioned, challenge of housekeeping and other jobs. Henry Ford back in the day or whatever, he had a $5 a day wage and he had 30,000 people standing outside the factory in Detroit. I think the reality is executive pay, CEO pay has outstripped worker pay by and large over the last 10, 15, 20 years. I think businesses need to address that. So I think that's part of it. But it's a challenge, right? And we're all together, just talking about Tim Hortons, we see the signs for $17.50 an hour, out front of the Tim Hortons signs. Well, that then changes who our lot personnel can be, or our sales assistants, or cashiers, or greeters, right? Like, we're all sort of in it together, right? But there are some uncomfortable truths about pay and wages, and that we all need to sort of address and be honest about. That's part, your original question, I guess, was about, employee satisfaction, right? And I think being flexible, it's not all about money, right? Like, I will say that. I think being accommodating to, working mothers or people that have scheduling constraints because of aging parents or a health concern or whatever, I think you need to deploy a lot of empathy for your people. We're trying to figure out ways that we can make jobs more attractive to women, right? Like, why is it that the automotive industry is predominantly men, and it's predominantly white men? If you're really being super honest about it, why? Why is that, right? And so, I look at my wife, who's a mother, stay-at-home mom of 4. She's a beast. She could do anything. She's way better, more talented, way harder working than me. So how can Herr as a company figure out how to tap into the talent of people like a stay-at-home mother? Would I allow a stay-at-home mom to sell 3 cars a month from Herr because that's what she can contribute? Yes. How do I figure out how to do that? How do I create the pay plan necessary to do that? How do we understand the ramifications of other pay plans that are impacted by that? So it's tricky, but I think empathy is a word Scott Beeler, our president and CEO, uses all the time. I think if you lead with empathy and you lead with this desire to understand where somebody's coming from, that helps you get to a better answer.
Outstanding. And personally, I have to say, the passion that each of the panelists have shared with the audience today is impeccable. I mean, I'm lost for words, but I implore each and every one of you that have a desire. Let's talk about what's important to you. What have we not touched on? This event is for you. They are here for you, and so everyone wants you to walk away with something that you didn't know prior to coming into the room. Whatever that question or thought is, this is the moment, the opportunity. So raise your hand. Oh, I love when I have willing participants.
So I guess my question would just be, as a college senior entering the workforce in about a year or so, and I'm terrified, what advice do you have for somebody who's entering? I'm looking into hospitality, that's my major. So what specific advice would you have for someone who's about to enter this new world?
You know what? I mean, hospitality, it's a great industry. I love it. It's in my blood, and I can't get out of it, even if I wanted to. So, being a new person in hospitality, be willing to do anything. And you almost, I've worked in this business for a long time and in other businesses as well, and I've always lived the motto of be indispensable. So be like, you may not want to work in housekeeping when you first get out of college, and I get it. I mean, I don't want to do it either, but you know what? You'll learn. And if you can get in and get a job in any, it doesn't have to be hospitality, but if you get in and you learn how everything works, you'll be so indispensable that you'll get hired to do anything. And hospitality for me is, you don't have to have a degree in hospitality. I have a degree in journalism. How'd I end up here? I have no idea, but I did. So, but it's your skills that you've learned over the years that gets you up that ladder. So if you go and you apply at my hotel and all we have really is just an opening in the front desk, that's maybe not what you want to do, but maybe you should take it. And now you're in. And if you can show that you can do other things, you're golden and you'll go far. So that would be my one piece of advice, is get in and be indispensable.
So I'm also a senior, and I will also be in the workforce, and I want to do events. So my question for you, Drew, is how do you keep people excited for throughout the entire year? How do you market throughout the entire year for an event that happens once a year in the summer? How do you keep people excited about it?
Do stuff like this. No, it's a great question. I pick my times of the year. Like, I'll do some TV stuff. Like, I'll pitch myself to like TV stations sometimes for like maybe next month for tailgating season. Let's come up with some recipes, do some grilling. Super Bowl time is big for me. I'll go to New York and do some stuff there. National Chicken Wing Day on July 29th. I do a lot of charity events. You'll see me at charity events. I used to be on a lot of boards. I'll go to events. I'll do backyard barbecues. I'll give away at auctions, and the Wing King comes and cooks wings for you. So again, through the brand, I just get out there and just do charitable things. And I would say that's how I really got going in business, was I just got involved with charities. I met a lot of people. It's a great way to meet people. I always say if I'm a college senior and I want to get a job somewhere, I'll Google up and see where the CEO or the head of marketing, what charities are around through LinkedIn. Shoot, go to the event and volunteer. You know, if Scott Beeler is big with the food bank, which you know he is, you know he's probably he's going to go to a food bank event or whatever, or maybe the chairperson of that event. Go and volunteer and say to me, hey, I wanted to meet you. I'm a senior at Niagara, and I'm really excited. And just plan it. Just go after it. Don't just show up and go after it. I mean, I think there's so many opportunities with charities and volunteering. If you don't volunteer, you're missing the boat. You're missing a great internal opportunity to do something good and to meet great people. So, I do a lot of different events, a lot of charity events. That's why I always keep my brand alive.
I just want to say one other thing, encouraging you guys as new entrants to the workforce. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't believe that you can't quit your job. So if you take a job, take whatever job that is afforded to you, and you hate it, quit. Try something else. So I think too much of us, when we're coming up out of school, we're trained and conditioned that this is going to be a bad thing on our resume. I only worked there for a month. You know after 2 days, you know after 3 days, or whatever. If it's not a good place for you, don't stay, because you're afraid that it's going to be a wrinkle on your resume or something. I think we're all alluding to the fact, yes, you want to be open to whatever work and hardworking. People are remarkably accessible. If you're on LinkedIn, well, I post content on LinkedIn. If you comment on a couple of my things and you're interested in automotive marketing, I'm going to know who you are, right? So finding people that you idolize or inspire you, or what industries are interesting to you. I think that there's a lot of opportunity. It's a really exciting thing. You can create your own reality. Step Out Buffalo is an example. As a media company, these women, I think it started as 2 people or maybe 1. I think they've grown to like 5 or 6, but they're the largest like independent media company in Western New York now, and right, and just by covering restaurants and music and other things, right, and they've created some gravity behind what they cared about on social. So I just wanted to encourage, if you don't like where you're at, quit, do something different. That maybe applies for all of us.
Well, now I want to make a comment. Matt, I think you're on WBEN with Susan. It's like
Yep,
you've got
Susan
the
Rose.
gift to say the most words in a short period of time. You got a gift. I always think, wow, I'm so impressed with that guy and what he has to say. But
Thank you. The Western Minute. It's
The Western-
cleverly edited there.
oh, my question is, have any of you received feedback, either positive or negative, that you've actually used and to change a process or to change the way you go out to your potential customers or clients or anything?
We get lots of feedback we don't like. We have quick oil change places, right? Fast that aren't always fast. Right? So the customer expects a 30-minute oil change, but it takes 2 hours or 2.5 hours, whatever. Like, so we're always getting feedback that's uncomfortable for us, that we need to revisit processes or things that we need to adjust.
For me, feedback is a daily thing. On average, I get probably 25 to 30 comments a day with every restaurant from customers, just whether they're suggesting something new, something we did wrong. We always take the feedback and make the change. So most times it's something that we can't. They're looking for a product that it's just not available, but we always take the feedback and make the change if possible.
You make complaints, right? No. Yeah, it's funny. Recommendation, feedback, complaint, whatever. I think you need to really decipher if it's valid or not. But the biggest challenge is, a lot of times the customer's right, but logistically, it's not practical. You can't make the changes. There's a reason why you do things a certain way. So I think at that point, it's key to communicate why. And but I think once you get something consistently, maybe there's something there, you need to find a way. But a lot of times, people that run companies aren't stupid people. And sometimes it seems obvious, well, why do you do it that way? Well, there's a reason for it. But you got to really decipher what's real and what isn't.
Yeah, I agree with Drew. We get complaints all the time, and everybody knows how to run a hotel. So, but Drew's right. There's a reason why we do the things that we do, and it's our job to communicate that and say, well, this is why this works, and it doesn't work the way that you want us to work because it just doesn't make sense. But Drew's absolutely. I agree with him 100%. So, but everybody knows how to run a hotel, or a car dealership,
Hi, I'm really awful that you guys have, because I came in here thinking, okay, I'm going to find 1 or 2 things that I can focus on, have a small business. A ton, especially the part about the brand, customer relationship, that number 1. Go all in, right? You got a project, and it's going to cost you, just do it. But what do you tell someone who's timid? He's got a great idea, but he's timid.
You know what? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of one of those things you probably just have to kind of gut through it, because whatever you're doing, whether you're selling widgets or pencils or whatever, a lot of it, the reason people are buying it, it might not be the best widget or the best pencil, but they're buying it because they like you and they trust you, and they. For me, I may not work in the nicest hotels in the United States or in Niagara Falls, but my customers trust me. They know I'm not going to steer them wrong. So, at least if you're timid, but you know what you're doing and you know what you're selling, you're probably the best sales guy you've got. So, you're really selling you, not your product, and people are buying you, not your product. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So, yeah, I'm not timid, obviously. So, I get people are, but sometimes people who are, if they're passionate about what they have, they're probably the best salespeople in the world, and they may not have any training whatsoever. So if you can get over the timidness, you'll be golden. At least in my estimation.
I'm timid. I keep thinking he's going to trick me. So.
Is it your idea? You got an idea? I think you should email all of us, and we should work with you. I'll work with you, because I think you should go for it.
I agree with Drew. Being timid is something I see an awful lot of, and I think if anybody in this room has heard this before, I hear it because it's my life. People come up to me and ask about the Tim Hortons, and they'll say, you know, I was going to get one of those. And, yeah. But I always stop and say, well, why didn't you? Well, you know, I wasn't really sure. I didn't know if I could do it. There was something that was always holding them back. And if they just had taken the leap, they would have did it. So I think with Drew, what he said, just do it and reach out and get some help.
I think that's a Nike slogan or something.
Yeah, I think the only thing to add to that is just, it's really a self-awareness thing, I think. What are you timid about? Are you afraid to fail? Are you afraid of somebody's judgment? Are you afraid of, right? Was it the narrative that your parents put in your head when you were a child? Like, what is it that's causing you to be timid? You don't have to be outgoing to be a successful business person. You don't have to be type A aggressive to be a successful business person. You can hire strengths. If you don't have a strength, hire it, right? Like, but you do need to be aware. You need to be self-aware. And for a business idea that's just getting going, ideas aren't that valuable. It's all about execution, I think, right? That's what I would add.
Great answer, great question. We're going to take two very short questions. I apologize that we didn't get a chance to get to everyone, but we are running out of time, but we will be around afterwards so you can speak to some of the panelists if you choose so. Yes, sir.
So I had a question about spending, marketing spend for small businesses. Like, is there a point where or at what point are you looking more, so I guess backstory, I'm in real estate. The marketing that I do is designed to get leads and, bring people down the pipeline, less so brand awareness. Like, I spend $0 trying to put my name out there because for the most part, I'm looking to, set those appointments and gather a pipeline. So the question being, is there a point at which your business has enough, like, what would you guys consider the point is where you can start spending some more on brand awareness in the community itself, rather than focusing on trying to create transactions out of the marketing spend?
I'm going to ask just one panelist answer that question in the interest of time.
I'm a realtor.
There you go. Are you?
You're the guy. So,
I think there's 3,500 realtors in Western New York.
Hunt.
Who are you with?
I'm on the Triple team at Hunt.
Great team.
No one at Hunt.
Great team, yep. I'm with Howard Hanna. It's tough because some things are so competitive when you're talking individuals like that. And I'm going to go back to, everybody's doing postcards, social media marketing. I mean, with Howard Hanna, I know, I haven't started doing it. I'm just going to people I know or they come to me. You got to try to do something that's different than everybody else. Everybody's doing the postcards, social media, Facebook and all that. How many followers you got?
On our page, we don't. See, that's the thing. I'm just starting to get into the marketing for our team. Facebook page is like 1,000. Instagram is much less. But we're focused on that paid advertising that creates actual lead generation. So it's like those form submissions that are very interested.
I would say right now is a different time. Very low inventory for real estate. You guys know all the stories. Price is high. It's a catch-22. Nobody wants to sell because there's no place to go. So I would not spend any money now. I would just be building my plan and meeting people and getting your name out there. just doing things and getting out, you know, and just, I don't know if I'd spend money. I'm sorry, there's just very few houses out there, and, you know, 10% of the realtors are getting all the business. I would just go network. I would network. I really would, and learn.
Yeah, and the question was just more as like a business, not necessarily related to realtors, but thank you.
Sorry, blew that one.
No,
I don't listen.
One final question. Anyone on this side, one final question. If not, we will start to conclude. Let me just say to the panelists, thank you. In fact, let's give them. Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, your patience. Again, my name is Dale Martin with Western New York at Work. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this, and I'll turn it back over to the panel.
All right, thanks, Bill. Thanks again to the panelists. They are volunteers, so they've practiced what they preach. We're not paying them anything to be here, so we're appreciative of you. We did make a donation in each of your name to the Boys and Girls Club of Niagara Falls. We have a certificate thanking you for that donation, so don't leave without that. Rebecca is here from the Boys and Girls Club of Niagara Falls. And feel free to hang around. I'm sure they'll all be happy to stay a little bit and talk to you, answer any questions. And we'll be here for a while, so thanks again for coming. And third Wednesday of every month, we do this. Next month, we'll have Bank on Buffalo talking about how to get a bank loan for new businesses. All right. Thanks, everybody.